We're about to explore Acts chapter 13, the great chapter that begins Paul's first missionary journey to the Gentiles.
Right, and we wanted to make this as realistic an impression as we could. So what we did, we went to great lengths. Of course, we took out our Bibles, happened to read those, and then we researched all kinds of historical facts, scholars, commentaries, all of that stuff. Then we did use AI to generate simulated images of what it would have looked like for them at the time, overlaid all of that on today real life satellite photos from Google Earth,
Cool.
and to give us an overall feel.
We put it all together, and this is how that epic endeavor that brought Christ to the Gentile world unfolded.
So here we are at Revival Community Church here in the great old USA, and we're going to launch to halfway around the world, halfway back in time to ancient Syria. What can you tell us about Antioch, where they landed?
All right. It was one of the largest cities in the Roman Empire with immense diversity and wealth. It was strategically located, bridging Asia and Persia to the west. The population was around 250,000, and God selected it as the bridge between the Jewish Messiah and the Gentile world.
Okay. And we know that when they sailed, now the merchant sailing ships were not like the ships today. No ballast in the keels, pretty bumpy ride going on. And they did this for 2 days, no pleasure cruise, across the Mediterranean Sea until they landed into the important Roman hub of Salamis. What can you tell us about that place?
It was a principal port of the Roman Empire to the Eastern world. It had a blend of Greek, Phoenician, and Jewish communities. It was also Barnabas' hometown. Salamis was the launching point of their cross-island ministry.
Yeah, and talking about that cross-island ministry, is Cyprus is roughly 140 miles long. So they crossed this, and I love this in the view, Mount Olympus, which was the home of the Greek gods. So they were literally in the shadow of the pagan mountain as they were ministering of Christ. They arrive in Paphos. What can you tell us on the northern end of the island? What can you tell us of Paphos?
Well, after an earthquake in 15 BC, Paphos became the island's capital and a political hub for the Roman Empire. Many Roman administrators sought advisors they believed had supernatural insight, such as Bar Jesus the sorcerer. He was such a hindrance to Paul's ministry that God struck him blind, and ironically it was the outcome of his hostility that caused the Roman proconsul to believe.
So we had this going on in Paphos, another important city in Cyprus. They finished their ministry there and then began another 2-day sailing trip, or as many as a few weeks if the weather was wrong. This could be pretty brutal. Taking them now to the land of Turkey. And important to know, Turkey's kind of like a tabletop. You have the low, flat coastline, and then think of going up the legs to the tabletop where the plateau is. But what can you tell us about ancient Perga?
Well, Perga was the capital of the Roman province of Pamphylia Secunda. It enjoyed high status as a center of trade, politics, universities, and home of the goddess Artemis. She was so ingrained in the culture that her image was on the city coins. In Roman times, the marshlands here had 3 common types of malaria. The worst, and I'll see if I can say this, Plasmodium falciparum, was often fatal. Common symptoms were severe headaches, joint, muscle pain, weakness, and diarrhea. Many scholars believe this is the thorn, or more accurately spike, in the flesh that Paul pleaded God to take away. It's a remarkable thought considering what comes next.
Right, so here we have Paul. There's 2 things that in this that people, I think, we really miss from Scripture, is that in this lowland where there were marshes in that day, mosquitoes being common, very, very likely that it was a recurring malaria that was a thorn in the flesh for Paul. But as he's getting over this malaria, he begins a trip over the Taurus Mountains towards the very important city of Antioch in the province of Pisidia. But this takes him up from sea level to over 9,000 feet. He has to cross that mountain pass and then back down roughly another 5,000 feet. And going down on hills is harder than going up if you
is for me.
mountains. And he did this until he came to the important city of Antioch in the province of Pisidia. So what do we know about Antioch and Pisidia?
This Antioch was a strategic Roman colony refounded by Empress Augustus as Colonia Caesarea. It was a military and administrative outpost for the semi-independent Pisidian and Galatian people. Retired Roman legionaries settled there. It was laid out in the typical Roman grid pattern with a temple of the imperial or Caesar cult. It was a crucial junction for the Augustan Way, a Roman road network joining the Anatolian Plateau to the Mediterranean coast. It was a wealthy and diverse hub of Romans, Greeks, Phrygians, and Jews.
All right, so here they are. We're on the tabletop now, and it's still not flat. They're going to end up, things heat up there in Antioch. They do an 8-day walk to Iconium. It's at least up on the top of the mountains, heading east. And so after this 8 days, they come to the city of Iconium. What can you tell us about that place?
Well, Iconium was a major hub connecting Syria and Ephesus to Rome. As a trade hub, it had a very diverse population. It's here that the Jewish community plotted to kill Paul and Barnabas, so they fled to nearby Lystra.
Okay, and Lystra is not that far, and we can see too in the altitudes, like Antioch is basically 3,700 feet up. Iconia was 29, so at least it was somewhat flat. And now they head over to Lystra, which is another basically 1,000 feet back up. So they are still doing some up and down. But things get very interesting in Lystra. So what happens in Lystra?
Well, Lystra was established by Rome as a colony. It was a retirement perk for successful Roman soldiers. It hosted a cultural mix of Roman, Greek, and native Lycaonians. Influenced by local legend, it was here Paul and Barnabas were seen as the gods Hermes and Zeus. But the crowd quickly turned from worshippers into murderers when Jews of the previous cities arrived and incited them to stone Paul and leave him for dead outside the city. Miraculously, Paul got up and went back into the city. The next day, he and Barnabas left for Derbe.
That's so really amazing. Can you imagine being in a city, they try and murder you, and then you get up and go back into the same city, and obviously he manages to establish a church there, so he's successful. But they really have to get out of there, but they continue east. The land's getting fairly flat now, so they do a 6-day walk from Lystra to Derbe. So what do we know about Derbe?
Well, it was the end of the Anatolian Roman road. It was as far as the empire extended to the east. It was a border town that served as a customs station. Roman administrators collected taxes from traders for the empire. It was also the eastern edge of Paul's mission field. Paul and Barnabas then backtracked the same route, adding the nearby city of Italia when they reached Perga again.
So they travel, then head back west, go through all these places where now they have enemies looking for them, establishing the churches, back down that mountain pass, back down to Perga, and actually put in another city. So 1,400 miles of walking, approximately 2 years of living with the Gentiles, trying to get churches started. So this was no small feat. And you know what? This is the first tour. This is the smallest of the 3 tours.
Wow.
So the question is, what kind of commitment, what did Paul see that drove him to such a major endeavor? Glad that he did, though.